I have been actually wondering what is this whole madness about AI? It's actually been a mystery. And today we had a very interesting event which actually unfurled this mystery for us. How exciting this world is, what it can do for us. There was a lot that was spoken. But I know as a young parent, I still feel concerned as to how this is going to develop in the future, what's going to happen with our children. Will they even have jobs to go to? How is the world changing? There's so much we don't really understand. Hi, this is Ruchira Darda, your parent and mindfulness coach. And today I'm in conversation with Gayatri Agarwal. She is she has been an architect, a digital designer, now a data scientist, and a founder of an AI space. She wears so many different hats. She's a founder of Altered, a company that builds custom AI powered tools, websites, apps for businesses and brands. They worked with some of the top brands in the industry, Boat, Amazon, Wow Skin Science, and so many more. Hi, Gayatri. Welcome to my show.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, Gayatri, first, I want to understand what's your story. You're a Marwari girl.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Gayatri and she shared you were in Orissa in a small town, then Visakhapatnam, then Bombay, then Barcelona. What is the story here?
Okay, so I think if the viewers are also Marwari, they'll understand. So I come from a very small town called Kisinga. It's a small part of Orissa. And I, I was a girl child in a Marwari family, right? So as the conventional, thought, you would not expect a girl child to study so much. But I'm only grateful for the fact that my grandfather and father, they believed in education a lot. So we actually moved from Orissa to Visakhapatnam, and that's where I did my schooling. Post which I wanted to, do something in the creative industry because I always felt like, I have that creative thing, but also because I'm Marwari, I wanted to do something that brings me, money. And construction is one place which has a lot of money. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's do architecture. Plus, I was watching a lot of How I Met Your Mother, and the main guy said, but again, jokes apart, right? I started my journey by being an architect. Then COVID hit, and all of us were working from home, and I realized one thing that it's one thing designing great buildings in college, but when it actually comes to designing in real life, it's not as much fun. And then again, I was like, I need to understand something where the money is. So I started researching, and it got me to the fact that in the future now, and this is 4 years ago, and the future research gave me that data science, AI, and robotics are going to be the next big thing. So I researched a bit and found out about how I can bring tech and AI into the space of design. That's when I kind of dabbled into what AI can do in the design space, what tech can do in the design space. And then I moved from Bombay to Barcelona. In Barcelona, I essentially got some expertise on how to use AI, how to build AI tools. So we essentially build an AI tool in Barcelona where you can just take a picture of your neighborhood and it gives you certain design elements which are not in the area but should be present.
Could be there, yeah.
So you as a user can just select on the ones you want to see in that place and it just renders the same place into that. So it just became a much more bottom-up design approach for the citizens of Barcelona, got an award for it. So realize that, hey, you know what, ChatGPT, Midjourney, all these tools will exist. But my use case, your use case, and every company's use case is going to be very unique. So that's where we found the gap. And we were like, how about we start making tools for you guys? And that's how Altered was born. So came back from Barcelona last year in September. In December, we started Altered. And yeah, that's how the journey has been.
Wow, super exciting. Actually, I always imagine that someone in AI has a lot of tech background, right? Like they've studied programming, they've actually studied a lot of like computer related stuff.
That's
Is that true? Because you saying you studied architecture.
So I started my journey by studying architecture, and you'll probably not find a lot of architects who know how to code. But 2 years of my life in Barcelona, I learned how to code. I learned how to do Python. Again, right? Like now the world we are in, you don't actually have to know so much of coding to build any tools. There are multiple ways to build no-code AI tools. But even apart from that, the tool that we built, we used Python to build it. And we built it on this app called Gradio. So I feel it's never too late to pivot. Like, and pivot is not a 360-degree thing, right? It's just 180 or until 180. So I just found the right moment to pivot, and then I went from being an architect to a metaverse designer to now, a founder in the AI space. So that's how I think my journey has been, and I don't think if you don't know coding, you can't enter the AI space. Because today, when we saw that, without coding, you guys can do so much with it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put a pin into this thought because, like she said, you can pivot at any point in time. And so many times we are so scared of change, and the world is changing so fast around us that this is a great message to take home, that if it's today, then it's today. Just try it, do it, change. But I'm going to take you one step behind, and I want to understand what is actually AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, I think most of us just know surface value of what it is.
So, for everyone who probably doesn't understand what AI is, or at least thinks that AI is new, I want to say one thing, right? Like today, we've been using a lot of machines for a while. We all have Siri on our iPhones. Even that is AI. AI essentially is any machine that you've trained to do a certain task to. So if it has been in a healthcare industry, if it has been Siri, we've been using AI for quite some time. The difference that we see now is that until now we were using it in the back end of things. Now we are being able to use AI to generate a new idea altogether. Now, while we are using, generative AI in text, image, video, 3D, etc., the reason why it's called generative AI is because now we as humans are inputting something and generating a new output out of that.
Right.
And that's why I think generative AI has become such a hot topic, because even, you or anybody around here, you don't need to have a coding background, but you can do each and everything using AI now. So I think that is how the journey has been. For somebody who probably needs to put AI into simple words, I would say that in a very, very simple language, it's a kid that you have taught to do a certain thing and just one task repeatedly. So now the kid knows how to do it. Okay. So that's what AI essentially stands for.
So when you say you've taught a single task, it's going to be different for so many different people, right? Like a designer will have a different type of task, or a writer will feel differently, or, how all of us have different jobs. So AI then is trained to do what I needed to do personally for me, and not just the world at large.
So AI is what you train AI to be. I will give you one very unfortunate example. So today, if you go to any AI tool, be it ChatGPT, Midjourney, and you type, CEOs, for some weird reason, all the images that you will get are of male. If you type girl, you will get like slim girls in a very light skin tone. So what I'm trying to say here is AI is what you train it to be. And in the world that we live, all the data that is available online, all the data that I am using to probably train this model, it just trained on stereotypical data. So, which is why it's always said that whatever you train AI to do, it is going to give you that kind of an answer. And I think this example helps us to understand that AI doesn't have a brain of its own. It will only do what it's characterized or nuanced to do so.
Okay, and why suddenly this whole fuss about AI? Like, if you're saying it existed in times of Siri and there was, stuff before that, why is this suddenly in conversation? Why are we talking so much about AI today?
So up until now, you have been using AI without knowing it is AI. Suddenly, there's this whole giant in the AI system, which is called OpenAI, which is also Microsoft is a big part of OpenAI. So OpenAI released a tool which is called ChatGPT, which now all of us are aware of, right? That became accessible to people, and it is a very powerful tool because the moment you talk to it, it replies back to you. And it is very, very different than what Google does, because Google would search the knowledge base and give you multiple links. What ChatGPT solved for is that, hey, I will come and talk to you. You need me to talk in a funny way, I will do it. You need me to talk in a serious way, I will do it. So the moment a technique like this became accessible to people, they needed to give it a new name for people to understand that, hey, it's the new era that we're entering. So according to me, I believe that there was internet that broke, this whole monotony of how we're dealing with things. And now that's AI. So as we move forward in the future, AI will be just like internet. Today, a lot of us are learning how to use it. Probably after a few years, it will just become a part. Like today, none of us learn how to use internet. We just use it.
Right.
So yeah.
Do you think like there's a lot of chatter about AI will go rogue on us? And there was study in Harvard that was presented actually that AI will take over the world in 2047.
Yeah.
And this year, Harvard declared AI will take over the world in 2036.
Yeah.
And they are saying that maybe next year we will say AI has already taken over the world. So what is this idea? Like, where is that
So I'll
coming
tell
from?
you now, how would you differentiate an AI and a human, right? The only difference that I can think of is a human has emotion while the AI doesn't. It is only doing things that you're asking it to do. Now, there is a term called AGI, which is actually a thing that they're trying to achieve, and they have probably achieved it, but they're not releasing it to the public because it is something that is very, very scary. What I mean by AGI is it is actually an artificial generated intelligence which is actually thinking like a human. And the moment we achieve the so called AGI, I think it's going to destroy the world in a certain way. And all your big people like Elon Musk, Sam Altman, who's one of the founders of OpenAI, they're all fighting against this. So there's of course in such a big company, right? There's of course a lot happening, and none of us know what's up. But yeah, I mean, if we keep going this way and we let AI control us, then I think the future is not very far when it can take over, us and our jobs.
So like all those sci-fi movies we saw of robots running around and taking over the world will become a reality?
I mean, seems like it, right? Today, have you started using those robots that are cleaning your homes? I mean, today, those are circular robots which probably just map your floor and then they start cleaning. Slowly, they will start having robotic arms. Slowly, they'll start having a face. Slowly, they'll have like their own legs to walk around. So I feel that's not very far away. It's just on us as to how much do we want to, release it to the public. Especially the big companies who are working on these, as much as they probably internally have achieved these things, they're very scared about the fact that what it's going to do to the world. So they're not releasing it to the public as of now.
Okay.
I feel like AI needs to have some sort of clear laws and implications before it's released to the public, because today you never know how people are using it. Half the times we don't know what's fake, what's real. So I think that's where the gap is. So once there are laws that clearly define what AI can do, so I feel that's when we'll still be in a safe zone.
And it's funny you're saying that because I was in San Francisco right now for my summer holiday, and I actually had coffee from a robotic cafe. Basically, I ordered my coffee on the iPad, and this robo arm actually put it together. And it called out saying, "Hey, human assistant, the cup has tilted." So the only reason there was this teenage girl on her phone that she walked into the store was to just make the cup straight.
Oh.
And this arm actually made the best coffee I've ever had in my whole life because it was made to precision. So yeah, exciting, but absolutely scary.
Yeah.
And that actually leads me to the question as a parent, what should I be cautious of? Because obviously it's really hard for me as a layperson of AI, of tech, to really know what this is going to do to all of us. And especially when our kids are a little bit, more advanced than us. They catch on to things much faster. My son's already composing songs on Suno, and they are using ChatGPT to sometimes even do their homework. I have to control that. What does it mean for our children?
So I feel like, when internet came in, we were worried about how our kids would use it in different ways. Then people started, like these websites started to put the 18 age limit.
Right.
But I feel it doesn't do anything as such, right? Like today, even if I'm a kid, I could click on, I'm above the age of 18 and I could go for it. So I feel when it comes to using AI, if we're taught to use it in the right way, that's where we can still move forward. But I feel when there are these heavy tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney, which can honestly do so much, I see it as probably a bomb where you can use it in the right way, but also in the most wrong way. Absolutely. So I feel as a parent, I would say that, when we use ChatGPT, we're probably reducing our cognitive thinking. I have a very short story to tell here. So there was a time where OpenAI was down for a bit. probably like an hour or two. And in that time, everybody was just worrying about the fact that their writing has become slow. And that's when we realized that we're dependent so much on tools like ChatGPT for writing. It's essentially that the moment it goes down, even for 2-3 hours, first of all the tools made on top of ChatGPT as a wrapper go down because they're using the same API.
Right.
And second, anybody who's using GPT to write certain things, their writing had gone slow. So I feel we shouldn't get so dependent on it to write. Of course, it's a great assistant. I always say AI is your assistant and use it to get your work done. But I feel as kids, if they're doing everything using AI, then they're using their cognitive thinking a little bit less, especially in writing and in generating something. But I feel it definitely helps if you're creating, using your creativity and then create. But where do you draw the line, right? So it's still a very blurry line, but I would say that until it's really required, maybe students don't need to get into ChatGPT. But kind of contrary to that, they are much better at that than parents.
Yeah.
So
They pick it up so instinctively. But yeah, it's very scary as a parent to even think about it, that how it's going to go ahead from this point onwards for our children. How are they going to actually use the tool? And like you said, it's dumbing them down a
Yeah.
bit, right? Because we had to actually do things. We learned skills by experience, by mistakes. But now we're getting these perfect solutions, AI generated, and you actually beautifully showed us in this last hour of how much it can do. Yeah, so it's pretty scary. But at the same time, I don't see a way that parents can actually cope up and keep up as well, unless they like find the pivot moment and go train themselves. So yeah, it is frightening. And there was a lot of talk in the middle of, like as a parent creator, I post a lot of pictures of my kids. I do a lot of content around my family. And then there was these videos and a lot of talk about how those videos can actually map my child's journey and be used later to actually create fake videos and data about him. So it's been very frightening. I've actually stopped posting pictures. It's like very minimalistic now. So is that all true? Like, is that going to happen?
So, essentially what AI is doing is it learns things. And the moment you're uploading a lot of pictures, content about you, the way you talk, the way you look, AI can essentially learn that. So it's becoming easier and easier to make deepfake videos. Now, let's say today a lot of people can do it to make content, but a lot of people might misuse it. I'm sure all of us know about the new scam that's going on where they would make a child video call their parent. And the parent wouldn't even realize that's not their child because, they look the same, they're sounding the same.
Absolutely.
So I feel one is definitely to be aware of what's going on so we can at least be cautious. We probably know where the child is, so we can be a bit cautious of, is this fake or not? There are definitely a lot of issues that are going on because of deepfake. There were deepfakes created of actresses. It's almost like the traditional way of morphing your image into a certain, photograph. The very same way now deepfakes are acting. So I feel like there are 2 things that, people in general can kind of adapt to make sure that they're well aware of what's going on. First is Instagram. Meta in general has started this new thing where they've started labeling generated content, which is generated using AI. It will call it as made with AI. What that does is a lot of people who are creating AI generated art, which is not bad, but there was such a big difference between doing something in a minute versus spending a lot of time in it. So now that Meta has started doing it, one, you realize that, hey, this is something that's changed with AI in some way or the other. Second way to kind of see the difference between AI generated content and a normal content is if at all there's a human present. AI is generally very bad with human anatomy in terms of facial expressions, fingers. So if you ever feel like the fingers look weird, if it's more or less than 5, then you know that this is something that's not generated, that's not real, and it's generated using AI. And I think the third thing is just as humans, we should be a bit cautious of the fact that AI can do certain things. When you know that these are the possibilities, you're well aware of it to even make a mistake in that line. While we say all of this, I think we will definitely need some laws that come into the picture, which can also detect a deepfake. That will really help all of us understand that, hey, this is AI generated content, doesn't always have to be bad. But when we need to, choose between, hey, did my child actually call me for money or not? That, I think that can really be solved the moment we start labeling things as AI.
Yeah, but the responsibility today is on the user, because I see
Yeah.
that when I upload my content and it says
Me
you
too,
obviously
yeah.
tick on it whether you have generated by
Yeah.
it. And
So
I don't know how
apart from
many.
that, also the Meta in general can detect if
Oh,
AI.
it can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you are not choosing made with AI in uploading a picture, Meta can kind of detect. But the CEO of Instagram was actually on a podcast, and he spoke about a couple of things. He's like, they can try to mark things as AI generated, but it's very difficult for them to do so, because a lot of times you would just probably remove a small mark from the background, or you would change the background just a little bit. Sometimes you probably use 5 different editing apps, so they miss labeling it as AI. So as much as they try, they will never be perfect at labeling everything as AI.
Right.
But all these tech giants, right, they're trying their best to kind of reduce the bad implications of what AI can do.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah.
That's a huge relief as a parent, also. Since, yeah, that is one of the biggest fears we all have, that how is this going to impact? And if companies take responsibility, governments come up with laws,
Yeah.
hopefully this will be a little more
Yeah.
secure and robots won't be running around taking over. So, do you think we will lose a lot of jobs to AI?
So I see it a bit differently, right? As AI, as probably somebody who thinks that AI will take away the job, there's actually an article, and it says that AI will create more jobs than it,
Oh, really?
displaces.
Wow.
And this comes from the fact that if today, instead of you losing your job is just going to get upgraded. Today, if I'm probably using my hands to do something, now I can use AI to do the same thing. That means my creativity stays the same. The tool that I'm using is just different.
Okay.
To give you a very quick example, earlier landscape painters were probably painting what they used to see. Then cameras came in. So people started questioning the fact that, hey, I took 2 hours, 5 hours to make a painting of what I'm seeing, and there's a cameraman who's coming and clicking a picture, but with one button. So is that even art? And then now there's AI, where I can type what I want to see and I can get it generated. So the question became, what is art and what is not? But I feel like all this, right, they will be evolving. Landscape painting is probably not photography, and photography is probably not AI art, but doesn't mean they have to be similar or they have to be compared with each other. So what I personally feel is, if today you're doing something, try to find the areas which you can automate. Try to find the areas where you can get thought starters from AI. Start using AI as your assistant. And I don't think you're going to get replaced by AI. In fact, you can keep using AI to do all the mundane tasks, all the idea starters, and you can focus on the main part of the things. One thing that I definitely want to add is AI will do lots of things. One thing I personally feel AI cannot do is human relations. And people do business with you based on your relationship with you. And I feel like that's where you can focus on. So anybody who's today scared of AI taking away their job, I think they can focus more and more on building relationships, doing business with people, handshake deals, and not worry so much about AI replacing them. Just as an example, today when we asked all the women in the event if they are scared of AI taking away their job, they were not.
Yeah.
Why? Because they know that they're all business women, and the skill that they have is their brain and not something that can be copied. So, yeah, I think just to conclude it, I don't think it will take away our jobs and we'll just be sitting idle. It's more about how we use it and go one step, forward.
So my job is secure, because as a relationship coach and a parent coach, I am definitely going to get business. Well, I hope it works well for everybody. Do you think our education system today, what our children are doing in school, is keeping pace with how the world is changing, transitioning? Do you think our children are capable of actually coping with what's coming?
Yeah. So, it brings me back to the same theory of how earlier when internet came in, we all used to have computer classes and computer labs. Slowly now that you see, none of that happens in school anymore because everybody just knows how to use the internet. The very same way CBSE has now introduced I think from class 6 to 12th, that AI will be one subject
That's
or
true.
some part of
Yes,
education.
yeah.
While we have that right now, I feel anyway, children are very well versed with tech. So they're using it one way. What education will help them understand is, hey, these are the right ways of using it. These are probably not the right way to use it. So I think that's what they can learn in education. But I feel like the way to use is not going to happen in school. It's going to happen when they're sitting with their phones, laptop, iPad, or whatever technological device they use, right? So I feel in terms of being well versed with AI, children will definitely be ahead of it. In terms of using it in the right way, I feel two things can change it, or two things can make sure of it. One is education, and second is laws.
Right. I want to add to that, and if you disagree with me, please correct me. I feel the world is changing so fast. I know the kids are really good with tech. They pick up things very fast. But what's missing, like you said in your previous answer, that creativity is something we still really need to put in ourselves to get the right prompt there, get the right response. That's what our children need training for, and which I feel in a large way it's missing in the system today, that we do a lot of rote learning and memory and hard work, but what about creative thinking and experience? I feel a little bit of that, and the training to how to command information from AI and what to look for, reading a little bit more, knowing a little bit more. So like today, that one prompt that you showed us, that tell AI that you are a copywriter, or tell AI you're Shah Rukh Khan. I thought that was actually a groundbreaking thought for someone as lay as me, that hey, I never thought of it. I kept saying chat GPT, give me an Instagram quote or a caption. But I never said, hey, you are a copywriter, write me a really good caption. So the thinking that comes with the creativity, the knowledge, the awareness, that's, I think, something that we still need to put in our children.
Yeah,
and
I feel like I also have something to add to that, right? We feel like, hey, we're just going to sit and AI is going to do our job. I don't think it works like that. The moment I type something without thinking, my answer is also going to be really dumb. Today, if you and I are sitting and without thinking, we're asking AI to do something, the answer is probably either going to be the same or not that satisfying. A lot of people come and say, hey, Gayatri, GPT is not sounding like me. It sounds very, AI. That's the new language that we've developed now, because the moment you see words like embark, it's ChatGPT.
Yes.
Right? So I think one way to kind of solve for that is to make AI sound like you. Now, how do you do that? In the end, AI is something that you train it to be. So what I would personally do is, using my creative thinking, whatever content I have created, I would just upload that on GPT and create a bot to probably make it exactly sound like me. What I'm doing here is, on top of the existing model, I'm training it to sound like me by giving it the creative personality that I have. Now, the gap that we've filled here is, we're not just directly putting one sentence and expecting it to give me all the creative answers. But what I've done is, I have gotten myself an AI assistant who now can think like me. That's where I feel you can be a little different from somebody who's not doing this, somebody who probably doesn't have as much creative thinking as you do.
Right. And actually, that is such a lagging, because a lot of times your vision, your ideas, your talent, it's very hard to find the perfect match, the perfect teammate who will actually complement what you want to do. Interesting. And I also want to maybe check with you, will AI take over those domestic tasks that you were saying, the robo hand and this thing? Because that's one thing as women, I think I would not want to do this.
I feel like all the humans are now saying things. So there's a meme that goes around, okay, that says, hey, AI can make presentation, AI can make websites, all right. I want AI to wash my dishes.
Yeah.
So I feel, as much as it sounds like a joke right now, in the end, as much, like we discussed, AI is what you train it to be. So if you train it to wash the dishes in a certain way, wipe the house in a certain way, it will do it. All you probably need to give it is a robotic arm, is probably a walking wheel. And I think we've already seen the circular robot with wheels, which kind of maps your house and, cleans your house. So I feel it can definitely take over that. The question is, if it does, then whoever is doing this, where do they go? Do their jobs get displaced? Do they learn new things and move to some other jobs? So these are the kind of questions we still have to answer as a society. But I feel it can definitely do the house chores.
Right. So I think that's a lot of value for today. I think I really like this idea that we are closing with: embrace it, learn it, especially as a young parent, especially as an individual. We must know what is this whole conversation about. And if there are so many influencers out there, there are so many coaches and teachers who are telling us how to use it, how to take advantage of it, how to train it to service us, then why not? And staying updated is the biggest tool that you can put in your toolbox. So do that. Thank you, Gayatri, for having this conversation with me. It has been super informative personally for me as an individual and as a parent. I know there's a lot I want to explore. Your session today was absolutely exciting. I'm going to try and make a couple of pieces of content using AI and see how far I get.
No, thank you so much for having me. I think it also means a lot to be able to do this in front of so many women. I think you've built a great community out here, because I feel like I've always had the demographics of either students or people in business or marketeers or job. But I think this was truly one of the times where everything came very unconditionally from within, because I was like, this is probably future me, or my mom or somebody from my family. So it felt really nice to just be here today.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And for more conversations like this, follow my handle, Ruchira Darda. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll bring more interesting conversations that can keep you updated and up with the times.